Well, good morning and welcome to the Green Cow Show. And I'm Lee. This is Miranda on the other side. And
Hi,
Miranda, I want to
everybody.
thank you for trusting me. I saw that you unmuted me 8 seconds before it went live.
I did unmute you 8 seconds before it went live, and then I immediately muted you again because your phone was loud.
My phone?
So
You heard my phone? I don't think you heard my phone. My phone's off.
I don't know. There was some kind of feedback from somewhere, so I muted you again, but then it went away. So I don't know. Maybe it was
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, and we have business stuff to talk about, which is cool. I like business stuff.
Yes, we do. So it is Business Wednesday. And today we are talking about what can you do when you have a whole lot of business ideas and you just don't know where to start. You have an idea that you'd like to do something new and exciting, but you've got a whole list. You're not really sure if your ideas are related or not, and you know what you can do, how you can even get started. I thought this would be a great topic for today because this is something that people come to us a whole lot about, and it's recently happened just a couple of times in the last couple of weeks for me, as I've had people who've come to me with this exact problem. So I thought we could talk through it.
Okay. Well, good morning, Mark. Nice to see you here.
Good morning, Mark. If you're watching live, let us know that you're here. If you're watching on the replay, give us a hashtag replay. Go ahead and give us some hearts and some likes. And remember that if you guys have questions about this, or if you've got a lot of ideas, throw those in the comments and we'll be happy to talk about them. So we have a list here of, things that you can do if you have a lot of ideas. And the first one is just get it all down.
Yeah, it's like any goal situation. If you're going to do goals and meet your goals and all, it always starts with writing down everything you can about whatever it is you're thinking about. And if you have multiple goals, there are multiple ideas here, that's fine. At some point in time, it's going to get pared down a little bit, and that's fine. And you don't want to ever get rid of that. You can set it aside or save it in a different file, but don't ever trash your ideas and thoughts because they may prompt you to have other ideas in the future that you really love, and you don't want to waste that. So
sure, I think this step is like it can feel really good for people that especially, so I work with a lot of people that are employed and they're making transitions and they're deciding, do I want to start a business? Do I want another job? What is it that I want to do? And they're really busy people. And a lot of times just this step of writing things down can help them to feel so good because it's like they've actually done something in that direction, and it kind of gives them the motivation to keep going.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. All right. Well, I hope some of you have some thoughts and comments here, because I know a lot of the people in this community are thinking about starting a side gig or something like that, and we can help, and we want to help. So this is a good start here today.
So once you've written down all your ideas and you have them all out on paper, and you've kind of taken some time with that so that you make sure you get everything down, what's the next thing that you can do to help yourself evaluate those ideas and pick something to run with?
Okay, well, when you do that and you talk it out and you get feedback from other people, that, in fact, even if you're talking about multiple ideas with that person, person may kind of gravitate toward one of your ideas. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the right thing for you to do. So be careful about that. If you're going to talk about one thing at a time, you can get feedback about that one thing, and that might simplify the whole mess just a little bit.
So what are some good things to keep in mind when we pick someone to talk it all out with?
Someone who's going to be honest with you and, fair and honest, and give you feedback that's needed, not necessarily, you want their opinions about things for sure, but keep in mind that's their opinion. That's not it's not the way of the world. It's just their opinion about something. Mark, I'm guessing you have something to say about this. Where you get your feedback from is pretty important. So you want somebody who you can trust. I know some people will not share ideas with just about anyone, and so you have to share with somebody who you're comfortable with, who you trust, who you respect. Um, Good morning, Cecilia. Um, so those are important things. Um, don't be offended by anything that they say. Just take it as what it is, which is just their feedback from their perspective.
Yeah, and another thing is, if you can find somebody that has some experience in, something that you're thinking about, that's good. If
Well,
you can find
that's a
somebody that,
bonus there.
yeah, that's a bonus, but it's not absolutely necessary. I think, just like when we said writing it out is, just get everything down. It doesn't mean you're committed to any of these things. It just means that you're
Right.
taking a step. When you find someone to talk to about your ideas, it's great if it's someone experienced. And sometimes this is where like the coaching and therapist and those relations and relationships come into play. And maybe you're not ready for that yet, and that's okay too. But what's really important is that you pick somebody that's not just going to be like a yes man, that's not just going
Yeah.
to say, yeah,
That's
I agree with everything you say.
yeah. You might also consider, if you've gone far enough, to consider who your avatar might be, who your best customer might be. You might have a conversation with a few of those people who might be interested in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe they'll get excited about what you have to say.
Sure. So Mark says that Nicole and Matt use the term serial entrepreneurs to describe people that keep starting and restarting businesses. I think that they have a podcast on that same topic, and it's it's great too when you have someone that has that kind of experience and you can kind of connect with them on these ideas. That's cool too, because even if it's not like within the same thing that you're thinking about, somebody that's had the experience of starting multiple businesses, and they can be a good sounding board. And one of the things that I was going to say too is that, like, just as it's important not to have a yes man, it's also important not to have a no man. Like somebody that just doesn't like, they're just like, you can't do that. That's scary. You can't do that. And that's not great either. So if you can pick somebody that at least, has some kind of sense of adventure and risk and all of that without just shutting you down, that's a great option as well.
Yeah. Great.
So Mark has a question. He says, how does shiny penny syndrome play into this, and how should we best deal with this?
Yeah, the whole shiny penny thing can be dangerous, because you might be like a pinball in a pinball machine, bouncing from idea to idea and never actually accomplishing much of anything. And so you do need to be careful about that.
Sure. And at this stage too, it's like, I wouldn't even worry about that too much, just because you're just trying to get your ideas out. You're trying to figure out, what are some of the different, what would it be like to actually, pursue some of these ideas. And we don't, that's kind of the next step on our list, which is imagine, like, think about what it would be actually like to pursue some of these ideas. At this stage, it's okay to spend some time imagining all of them. The reason that I put that on our list is number 3, because I had an article that I read about how when you're making comparisons, a lot of times people, they have these big lists of like pros and cons, and and that's what we do when we compare. But we have to remember that at some point we're going to stop comparing and we're going to actually start doing. And so instead of just looking at all the possible benefits and drawbacks, think about what it would actually be like. Like, what would this mean for your time? What would this mean for your money? What would this mean for your relationships? Like, actually thinking it through about what it would be like to be in that moment is important. And sometimes I think that can help you avoid the shiny penny syndrome, because when you start actually imagining what it's going to be like, you might say, you know, this actually isn't the life that I want. So I'm going to put that idea on the back burner.
Right. There are a lot of things to consider. You mentioned several of them: money and lifestyle and relationships, and all those things need to be considered before you make that final choice to pursue whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think, you know, and it's really important that you look at that in context of your own life and your own values and what excites you, you know, because on paper things can look one way, and then when you actually try to incorporate it into your life, you know, it might be something completely different. So, you know, for me, if I wanted to start doing some kind of like a corporate training thing, which I've thought about in the past, and yeah, it would be super cool to be traveling all over the place, you know, going to different places,
For a while.
and doing corporate training. But then when I actually think about my life, like, you know, I still have like kids that I have to deal with. I don't want to be really away from them for that long. You know, it doesn't quite mesh with the rest of my life. So like on paper, that looks really cool. But when I think about how would that actually fit with what I want for my life, and you realize maybe not.
Maybe not. Okay, so
Maybe
that's a
not.
lot to think about right there, and you can probably go back and look through that list of what is it, 4 questions that you
Three
had?
things, and I think we don't have we haven't talked about the fourth one yet. But Nicole had a comment here. She said that she also has another recommendation for serial entrepreneur resource there. So that's in the comments, and I put it up. So I appreciate that, Nicole. And yeah, that's another thing that you can do during this process of exploring is looking at like what other people have done and getting an idea of what their experience is like. One of the things that I often recommend to my clients as a career coach is informational interviews, you know, where when I have folks that are looking to make big career transitions, oftentimes I say, you know, you need to talk to somebody in this industry and see what it's actually like. And one of the big things I've been talking about with some clients lately is, you know, making a transition from one environment that, you know, is it has some interesting nuances to it, to a completely different environment. And, you know, one of the things that we've been talking about is, sure, this work looks good, but this type of work tends to attract these kinds of personalities. And are those kinds of personalities the kinds of personalities that you work well with? And, you know, so that's one of the things that when I do career coaching, I ask them to kind of explore that. And we do, you know, I suggest doing those informational interviews to see what that's really like. And that's a great thing that you can do in this process too, is just finding people who are doing something similar, and getting an idea of what their experience is like, and not just, you know, their elevator pitch and their story of how they were, you know, living in the street and now they're making millions of dollars. And we love those stories and that's fun. But like, what does the day-to-day actually look like? And that kind of research and exploring is helpful at this step.
Yeah, good thoughts. Good thoughts. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And Mark says now he's going to have nowhere man stuck in his
Well,
head.
Mark, I can help you with that. When I first heard her say it, I had yes man in my head, and now that's stuck in my head. So you can get yes man stuck in your head.
Now
Then
we're just going to
get
have
rid of it.
the karaoke day, whatever. See, Mark has a comment here. He says, what I use to make these kinds of decisions is the 3 Ps: people, process, and profit. If any one of these 3 are missing, then I put a pause on the idea until I can find the missing link.
Great thought. Great thought. People, process, and profit.
Sure.
Yeah, you know, people, if you're working on a heart-based, you know, save the world kind of business, that's awesome. But if you're going to be able to do it for any length of time, or you need to actually think about the money side. I know we run into that a fair amount. Well, I don't really care about the money. Well, that's fine if you have multiple streams of income, or if you have a pile of money that's big enough to last you as long as you need to. But if you're actually going to start a business, there are costs involved. I mean, it's a thing that you just really do need to address.
Sure. And yeah, like if any of one of these is missing, put a pause on the idea until he can find the missing link. I think the idea is that doesn't mean that you have to abandon the idea. It
No.
just means this is a process of sorting through all the options. I think I want to talk about the process here for a minute. So a lot of times I work with a lot of people who are considering leaving a full-time job to do some kind of consulting or starting a consulting business on the side. And we did a show about that recently. But one of the things that I often advise that I think relates to process is, what can you find to be able to do in this area right now? There are some things that are going to take time to build, and that's okay. But if you're trying to make a decision about where you want to go, it's helpful to think about, is there anything that I could do right now? That the things are set in place, that I could generate income right now, that there is an option for me to get started in this right now. And sometimes, doing that first, that there's actually like a step, there's a process for you to start doing something in this area right now, that is helpful, because otherwise it's really easy to feel like you're doing all these things and you're never quite getting where you want to be. So finding the thing that allows you to try something right now, finding that door. And again, that doesn't mean you have to be with it forever, but sometimes that is the first place to go. All right, so then I guess we're on to step 4, which is pick something and stick with it.
And give it enough time to do what it needs to do. And your path might not be super clear, but there will be a path, and you need to follow it diligently long enough to make a decision about something different, certainly.
Right. So Mark says, my first business, I had the people, but no process or profit. And my next business, I had process and profit, but not the right people. And when I finally got all 3, it makes business so much fun. I think another thing that this demonstrates is that oftentimes we have to go through a lot of, we try something and it doesn't work. And then we try something else and, it doesn't work. And finally you get to the thing that works. And that's okay too. And that kind of goes along with our number 4, which is that, you pick something and you stick with it, and you don't keep going back to your list and comparing and say, well, I wish I would have done that, or I had an opportunity to do this. And, when you have chosen something and you're pursuing it, then you're going to get valuable data that you can use to help you make decisions in the future. And, that's the benefit of it. So it's okay if it doesn't necessarily work right away. But there's still something valuable that you're getting from it.
Cool.
So, yeah. So if you guys have some thoughts about, how you make and sort through lots of ideas, let us know. If you've gone through this process, I know Mark shared a little bit about how he's gone through this process. Let us know how that's worked for you. Leave those comments and, tell us about times where this has worked for you. If you're currently in a situation where you're looking into multiple things and you're not exactly sure where to go, let us know about that too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mark has another great comment up here. Mark, it's great to see you today. You're just full of great stuff. That's awesome.
So Mark says, Lee Watson, I agree about your timeline. Before you start, set your point of no return, 1 month, 3 months, maybe it's a year. We have to know how much runway we have before getting on the plane.
Yeah, absolutely. That's perfect. Perfect. And the things that you learn during this attempt may help you with another one if you decide to go that direction. So don't give up before you've learned some lessons.
Sure. And I also would suggest that like people need to or not need to, but there's the all or nothing thinking, which is a problem in general, where you're thinking, oh, this is all good or all bad, or I made all kinds of mistakes here and now I'm doing all the things the right way. And sometimes when we did a show recently about telling our stories, and sometimes we fall into that all or nothing thinking when we tell our stories about, well, I didn't know anything in this, when I tried this and I did this all wrong, and that I see, I see some problems with that because it is progressive. We can talk about what we've learned. We can talk about how we're improving in these areas, and now we know we need to improve in those areas, and it's a work in progress. And those things, that's good. But I hear, oftentimes people who are just all or nothing thinking about how this was such a bad thing that I did. I made a wrong choice. I need, instead of just looking at it like, here's what I learned, and now I'm implementing these things, and now this is what's happening. So, do you have some sun there?
Yes. Yes, it was really a gray morning or early morning today, but much better now. It's supposed to be really sunny today, so that's good.
All right, that's good. So it is sunny here too. It was really cold this morning, a lot colder than I thought it was going to be when I was walking because I was like frozen.
It's really cold here. It's in the 60s right now, so
Yeah, it's so cold. It's absolutely freezing. I feel so sorry for you.
thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to recap those steps again for those of you who are watching on the replay or if you're watching live. So those steps, if you have a lot of ideas for business and you're not really sure where to start, number one is write it all down. Number two is talk it out. Find someone that you can talk to about this. And number three is imagine what it would actually be like in your life to do these things. And then number four is choose something and stick with it. And, we had some comments here about thinking a little bit about the amount of time that you're going to stick with it. KJ says that the 60s don't qualify as cold, Lee. So sorry.
Okay.
But so those are the steps, and it may seem, that those are really simple things, and I don't want to downplay anybody's struggle with, you know, these ideas because it is a big deal, especially, and it is your life, and especially since I work with a lot of people that are leaving a full-time job or starting a side gig while they're in a full-time job, and that's a big commitment. You're already probably stretched for time. And if you have a family or anything else that you've got going on, it's not like you have all the time in the world. So I don't want to downplay anybody's struggle, but the steps are fairly simple. The thing is that, they can be, take the time you need to do them. It's not like, write everything down. Okay, you got 45 minutes. Now, that might be good for you to get started if you have to force yourself. I know Lee and I are working on some writing projects, and sometimes we have to force ourselves to write. So you have to set a timer and say 45 minutes is the amount of time I'm spending writing. But that doesn't mean that, I'm giving myself 45 minutes and that's it. Take the time that you need. Some of these steps might take a couple days or a couple weeks, depending on the available time you have and what mindset you want to be in when you think about this stuff.
You bring up a good point there. If you're feeling really stressed about this because you need to generate money or something, or there's some other urgent matter, really think hard about that one, because you don't want to make decisions based on temporary challenges.
Right.
It
Yeah.
doesn't usually work well.
There's a lot, as a career coach, I run into this a lot, and there's a lot of ways to make temporary money. We live in a gig economy now, so there's a lot of ways to make temporary money. And oftentimes I advise my clients to do something like that for the short term, like a DoorDash or an Instacart or Uber or something on the short term where they can just generate what they need and then solve that problem before they make a decision that's going to alter the course of their lives.
Right.
And we're fortunate to live in a time when we can do that. It is,
Absolutely.
you have to work hard, and you do have to be good at customer service. That's really important with a lot of these things.
Good with
But
people.
we live in a world where, if you need a couple of $1,000s, to get out of a jam, there are ways to do that more than ever before.
Right.
Yeah. Yvonne has a great comment here. She says, "Good morning, great topic. I try to write down ideas, but I think one should pick one and do your best to make it a success. If you fail, it's okay. Either fix the issues for the next time or simply know you tried it. Being on the fence about ideas is not making a decision." So, yeah, I think that's true. You got to get off the fence at some point.
Well, you don't have to, but if you don't, you may regret that forever.
Yeah, if you stay stuck on the fence, things won't change. And for some people, that's okay. But if you're looking for a change, you're not going to get that change on the fence. So Mark said he thought about Yvonne the other day because one of the companies that he works with raised over $150,000 for St. Jude's Research Hospital this past year. So Yvonne is a fundraiser for St. Jude's and has raised a lot of money for that organization, which is awesome. And Mark, that's great too. So, yeah.
Very good.
All right. Well, I think that's just about it for this show today. Hopefully this helps some folks with going through their ideas and sorting through their ideas. If this is something that you need more help with, please feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to help you. And if you're watching on the replay, feel free to leave comments about your own stories and experiences with this, and we'll reply to you.
Please remember that in this community, there are many, many entrepreneurs who are willing to share their experiences with you. We're certainly willing to help in any way we can. We're developing new programs just for that kind of thing. And so, yeah, this community, this Green Cow Show community, is a great resource, and use it if you can.
Right.
People do contribute, and people learn too. So it's a great place to be.
And one of the things that I was just thinking about is, we're really focused here with the Green Cow Show and with the additional programs we're creating and helping people to overcome roadblocks to career and business success. And one of the roadblocks that you might be experiencing is difficulty getting started with even writing your list. And I've experienced that myself. Sometimes it can be a function of mental health challenge like depression, anxiety, ADHD. Sometimes it can be a function of that. Sometimes it can just be a fear. There's lots of reasons why just entering a project, starting a project is so overwhelming for some people that they don't ever do it. And if that's you, if you're like, I can't start, that would be great for you to reach out, because we would like to help you with that. There are ways that you can work on that. I've had to work on them myself in many ways. Ooh, we can see you again, Lee.
Did I go away?
You were just very dark there for a minute because I think a shadow was passing over.
Okay.
I'm
still here.
If you're having trouble getting started, and don't be embarrassed about that. Don't feel like that's only you, because I promise it's not. It's something that not a lot of people talk about. But if you're sitting there and you feel like you physically cannot start this process, I promise you're not by yourself. And reach out, and we'd love to help connect you with people who can help you take that first step.
Absolutely. And thanks, Mark, for the Merry Christmas comment, and to everyone. Yeah, that's awesome. I think Mark's maybe gone by now, but thank you for being here.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. We'll see you on Friday. And
do
Yeah, have
something nice for somebody else today and a whole bunch of people if you can. I always close it this way because it's an important reminder for me when I go out in the world. I need to remember to do nice things for other people. It becomes more natural over time, but if it's not natural, um, do it anyway. Do something nice for other people. Be that light. Be that source of hope and
I
peace
think
and
you
love.
just close that way because you need to have like a sign off message like Walter Cronkite or something.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
All right, everybody. We'll see you all on Friday. Bye.
Bye.